My name is Nandi. I'm a trained doula, a licensed midwife, and mother of 3, and this is my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about my top 10 tips for writing a birth plan. Over the years, the most common question that I have received from friends and people that know me is what to include in their birth plan. And especially if you're expecting your first child, you might not really know what to include. So today's video, I'm going to talk about my top 10 tips and what I think can be really useful to include in your birth plan. In Swedish, the word for birth plan is Förlossningsbrev, which translates into birth letter, which I quite like the sound of it, like how it sounds. In hypnobirthing, you use birth preferences. You can use any other title for this that may speak to you. It doesn't have to be birth plan. It doesn't have to be also. Birth plan isn't necessarily a plan. It's more of like your birth wishes or what you feel is important that the staff knows. If you're having a home birth, you will probably have contact with those midwives before birth and plan together. So you might not write a specific plan birth letter in the same way as if you have a hospital birth. So my focus today will be for those of you who are planning on having a hospital birth. So here are my top 10 tips. 1. Don't write a birth plan. If you don't feel like you don't want to write a birth plan, don't do it. You don't have to do it. It's not for everybody. It's not necessary. It's not something that you have to do in order to give birth. You'll be able to give birth even though you don't have a birth plan. 2. A birth plan is an amazing way for you to introduce yourself to your midwife that's going to be present at your birth. And it doesn't have to be just focused around your birth. It can be anything that you want to communicate to your midwife. Have you been through something traumatic, be it a birth or something else in your life? Do you have any fears? How do you react to pain or stress, or are you scared of hospitals, or what really calms you down? All these things can be really, really good to include, and it doesn't have to be specifically connected to birth per se. It can be anything that you feel is important that the midwife knows about you to understand you better. 3. Make sure your birth plan isn't too long. You can include exactly what you want, but also think about that this might be something that the midwife has to read quite quickly. So I would recommend 1 to 2 computer-written pages and not more. When it's very extensive, it takes a lot of time. It might take time away from actually giving you the care you need. So make sure you get what's most important there. But 1 to 2 computer-written pages, I think, is quite common and is also easy to read quite quickly if you have to. And yeah, that's what I would stick with. 4. Include your name, your birth partner's name, and if you have a doula, include their name also. This just makes it so much easier for the staff to remember everybody's names. As in a hospital setting, you meet a lot of different people, and just seeing those names on the top of the birth plan, knowing the doula is this so-and-so, the birth partner is so-and-so, it just makes it a lot easier, and you're helping the midwife out a little bit. 5. Include what's important for you during labor, for birth, and also the time after when the baby is born. You may have different requests or dream scenarios for these different stages, include everything that is important to you. 6. How have you prepared for birth? If you have prepared in a certain way, maybe you've taken hypnobirthing class, Lamaze class, Förra utan rädsla, or any type of class. It's really nice it's really nice for the midwife to read that in the birth plan, to kind of know also how to approach you with which tools you already have, maybe you and your partner have together, and work with you, even though all midwives won't know all the different techniques and all like in depth. It just gives them a kind of an idea of how what your approach will be. 7. What kind of pain relief do you want? Do you want any pain relief? This can be both medical and non-medical options. So is there something that you know, I definitely don't want this? Include that. Is there something that you know that like this I really want to try it? Include that. Then it's also easier for the midwife to suggest those options, because the midwife then knows that these are the options that you have already thought about. 8. If you have a partner, go through the birth plan with your partner in preparation. If you have a doula, same goes there. Make sure that you go through the birth plan so everybody in your support team knows. Everybody in your support team that knows what is important to you, also what you're communicating to the midwife. Especially if the midwife maybe doesn't have time to read all the birth plan because there's a lot going on. Maybe you at the end stages of labor, then it's good for the people in your support team to know, oh, this is really important, don't forget this. So make sure you go through the birth plan together. 9. Include your partner's requests. So is there anything that is really important for the staff to know about your partner? Are they scared of blood, which is very, very common? Do they want to cut the umbilical cord, or do they not want to cut the umbilical cord? Do they want to see the baby being born, or so on? So really make sure that that is also included, because your partner is also a really important person during this day. It's not just the person giving birth. Even though the person giving birth is kind of like the main focal point, there might be some things that the partner also wants to communicate to the staff. So include that. It's really, really good. And 10. Remind your midwife that you have a birthing plan. So make sure that when you come to the hospital and you're being checked in, hand them the birth plan. If there's a change in staff, make sure that they know that you have a birth plan. If there's a possibility, maybe the midwife can read the birth plan together with you, or at least in the room, so you see the midwife reading the birth plan, and therefore you also know that they have taken in the information that you have given. And my last thing that I want to say, which is not really a tip, it's just like a thing that I feel is really important to say, is like, don't worry about being too specific. It's your body, your baby, your birth. Whatever is important to you, you have a right to include that. And whatever you want to communicate to the staff, communicate that to the staff. Don't worry about them thinking whatever. Don't worry about their reaction to it. I think most midwives want the birthing person to feel comfortable, to feel safe, to feel heard and seen. And a really good way of doing that is to getting that paper in your hand and being able to see what is important to that birther, or to that birthing person or the partner, and being able to accommodate as much as possible in the birth plan, and many requests as possible. So be as specific as you want. What's important to you is also important to the midwife. So those were my 10 tips. I would love to hear if you have any other tips that you would like to add, or did you write a birth plan? Did they read the birth plan? What's your experience? I'd love to read your comments about this, so leave a comment below and I'll make sure I'll read them all. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you like the content that I'm creating, please subscribe, share it with your friends, and I will see you next time. Hejdå!